laser cut for the first go. Got a glue gun, a precision glue gun tools, giant toothpick, and a plastic knife. And I kind of overcut this version, but I figure it's going to take me 2 shots to figure out how to glue this together properly. And the initial version I already broke this. So in the other SVG I've added more cuts in this area, so I should be able to flex better. Alright, let's give this a shot. So for the top of the piano, the front part goes on. I have no idea what piano parts are called. So what I did all the glue on the inside so it doesn't really show. I like to fit the parts and then sort of do the glue seam from the inside. And for mounting the bendy part, it's a really good idea to have a vise. And for the legs, this one I did on the wrong side. It's like you want to put the glue on the inside. So when you put your piano on your desk, it doesn't show any of the seams. The laser cuts are slightly larger than the inserts, so I may alter that in the SVG file that I'm uploading. However, it is also good to kind of fit extra glue in there, so it's kind of a feature. So you're not going to get the whole thing on all at once. So I put this in a vise, and I'm going to glue the whole inside line like this, and then let it sit. You want to make sure that you leave the clearance for the USB port to go out, so you can power the piano. So I'm putting quite a bit of glue on the parts that have the highest stress. I'll just be leaving that in the vise. And for people that it's like glue guns, you end up with a lot of strands. I just bring the glue back towards me, and then that way the strands like go down the length of the thing, and then they're easy to remove with another tool like the plastic knife. So first draft turned out pretty decent. I used quite a bit of glue on the inside of these seams, and it's something when you're gluing kind of these wood projects, you just want to decide, are you going to use glue gun and then end up with some extra glue blobs you can kind of clean up later with an X-Acto knife, or to use like a wood glue and then an applique where I'm just like dabbing the wood glue on the surfaces between them. So because this is the first draft, I wanted to kind of get it done quicker. It's mostly glue gun. And really good thing about the first draft is I realized I glued the whole headboard and soundboard of the piano on without putting the clef in. So this is more like a model kit at this point. And then I had some extra parts that were laser cut, so I just threw that in there as if it's like a piano for an alien or someone with 24 fingers. Version 2 of the Klef piano. So this one has the properly embossed top on it, and got the cutout for the microbit here. And there's no logo for this, so just for the music. Maybe I'll make some tiny sheet music. And the stand, you just need a standard screw and bit that will fit through there. So when this inserts in here, I changed the file a little bit. So that's a bit like, sits a bit more like that, and then this can actually move up and down with the screw. It's kind of nice. And then I made, these are the hinges for the piano lid, which will be going on the bottom here. I made them a bit bigger. They still might, those could almost be twice as big again, because those are supposed to fit in here and here. The legs I left the way they were. These are slightly smaller cuts, but it's still a little wobbly. And then there should be one more cut in here. I don't know if it did it. In the SVG file, there should be one more cut here just to help it bend a bit more. So we're just gonna have to be extra gentle with that this time. Okay, here goes version 2. So in the version 2, I snapped this again by just gently pre-flexing it. So I think I'm just gonna cut this part off and then just glue it. And we're just gonna pretend that it worked perfectly. Maybe in your own laser cutter, I think the wood I'm using, I'm trying to flex beyond its capabilities. So I could have soaked this with water first, or put more cuts in it so it's more flex. But otherwise, it's coming along pretty well. My goal for this so far is to have 0 visible glue on the outside of the build. And even though there's a lot of glue on the insides, so I'm basically like fitting the seams and then just gluing along the inside as much as I can. Now this is a bit more of a challenge because I don't want any glue on the outside. The nice part here is this soundboard, and then the Klef itself will actually like hide most of the glue that's going to go along the base there. Okay, so here's kind of the finished thing. So I did pretty well on not having any visible glue. This part, I'm just gonna... I didn't put markings on your version. So you just have to eyeball that. So those are the hinges that sit there. And then that way this version, that can... the piano, the lid stand can like sit flush, and then those notches will go in there, so it sits quite nicely. Now what I did not do this time is glue the soundboard down, so that I can still fit the clef in. And one challenge I did have is because of the way these ridges went, based on how I glued the bottom, I did have to just sort of push this from the inside to get the soundboard to fit. So I just used like a long toothpick and went under the soundboard and then just sort of wedged it out so I could fit that part in. Okay, let's try it with the Klef. Ta-da! Looked like it turned out perfectly. The only thing, so I'll clean up these extra glue pieces later with an X-Acto knife once the whole thing's had time to dry. So just to remind you, the soundboard is just press fit. It's not glued in at all. And the lid is not attached. So the weight of the lid, even when it's in its hinges, tends to like flop back. So again, making a longer front hinge will try and offset some of that weight. But otherwise, it turned out quite nice. And there's the micro USB port. And like pretty much zero visible glue. Now you might want, you could glue this in, but I think for this one we're just gonna leave it for now.